are he's going to go to Pittsburgh, which it's a weird fit, isn't it?
I think it's a better fit than Minnesota. By the way, Minnesota is stacking up some players. I don't know if you noticed what they've done in the trenches, Colin, but they are loading up. I like Minnesota's offseason. I just don't like the prospects for Aaron Rodgers at all. Like any of the options. I wonder if he'll just decide, I'm going to retire. I don't need this. I don't need to be the last pick.
Yeah.
Nobody wants. The Colts would rather have Daniel Jones than make a run at me.
If I asked you, what's the single best acquisition? I think Drew Dahlman, the center for the Bears, when you consider what it will do to the O-line, the quarterback, I think that's about as good a pick. That's as good a pickup as I've seen. I think Devontae Adams to the Rams is really strong. He'll fit in seamlessly with McVay and Stafford. They get offense.
Your guy Sean Payton has grabbed two 49er defenders.
Well, it's interesting. Two injury-prone defenders. I have a theory on what Sean Payton is doing in Denver. I would say of all the moves I've seen, Devontae Adams to the Rams and Drew Dahlman, the center for the Bears. And again, I think Joe Thuney to the Bears. Again, you're overpaying in a lot of eyes, but he's also a really good I mean, they went and got two elite offensive interior linemen. That is something the Bears generally don't do. Offense and interior O-line.
Are we counting trades or just free agency? Because I think Washington grabbing Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel.
Nice moves.
Those are huge moves. I like Washington a lot. I got a new NFC Championship game for you in January of 26.
No, it is. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And, listen, I know, it was my favorite part yesterday is coming into free agency. We're all like, it's not a very good free agency class. And then it arrives and we're all like, unbelievable. But the Bears did trades before free agency. So, I mean, it's not just free agency. I'll be honest with you. Devontae Adams to the Rams and Dahlman to the Bears, I was like, whoa. Yeah. Anytime you're like, oh, whoa, those guys are going to fit instantly.
Let me hit you with one last one. Who wins more games next year? Sam Darnold Seahawks or Justin Fields' Jets?
Oh, Darnold Seahawks, easy, like slam dunk. Jets are going to be a 4 or 5 win team.
And Seattle's going to be more than that?
Seattle going to be an 8-9 win team. Yeah, I see a lot of negativity with Sam Darnold. He's going to fall off a cliff.
Who's his OC, by the way? What do they got going on in Seattle?
Kubiak, who, by the way,
flamed out after a hot start last year.
Okay, well. All right. We'll see. If you feel like owning a home is out of reach, Rocket Mortgage says no. Where you land as a quarterback is about 80% of your success rate. Go look at Baker Mayfield. Finally got a good roster. Finally got a team that believed in him in Tampa. Go look at Sam Darnold in Minnesota. 80% of this stuff for quarterbacks is where you land. Very rare that Joe Burrow can overcome a frugal front office and ownership, bad O-lines. Those are historic outliers. So Justin Fields signed a 2-year deal with the Jets. It's basically a 1-year deal and an $8 million cap hit. So Justin Fields, think about this, starts his career with a broken franchise, a defensive head coach, and a defensive culture in Chicago. And then he goes to a solid franchise with a defensive head coach and a defensive coach in Pittsburgh. Culture and coach, Pittsburgh. And now where does he go? With another defensive coach, another broken franchise. I know how this will end. Not good. If he would have landed a Sean Payton or a Sean McVay out of college, I think you'd have seen the very best of Justin Fields. I don't know how good that is, but it's better than what you've seen. And so here's a fact. The really good young quarterbacks, even with average roster, poorest ownership groups, so right now the Chicago Bears, even though I love the upgrades, it's a lot of finger crossing and hope and optimism. That's all it is. Go look at Philadelphia's stacked roster, especially their O-lines and D-lines. That's homegrown stuff, overwhelmingly. Look at the Lions O-line, great front office, mostly their guys. Look at the Kansas City defense. Their guys. Look at the Rams' unbelievable defense. Cheap. Their draft picks. Green Bay, historically, over the last 20 years. New England during the Belichick era. His own line. His draft and development guys with Dante Scarnecchia. The Packers overpaid for a guard yesterday, but historically, they draft and develop offensive lines. So when you got to go buy somebody else's good players, yes, you can absolutely upgrade. I am not denying that. But eventually you'll pay a price for overpaying for O-line and D-line guys. Remember, guys hit the market. I like Grady Jarrett a lot, but Atlanta's like, we probably got the most out of you. Little age here, getting really expensive, so the Bears have to overpay. I mean, Kansas City moved off Joe Thuney. They're telling you something, and they liked him a lot, but they're telling you deep down, we think probably the peak, the erosion starts now. So I can like what the Bears did, but make no mistake, the best two defenses in the NFL at the end of last year, you could have argued, were like Kansas City, the Rams, and Philadelphia. It is a lot of draft and develop guys. It's not buying somebody else's used car. And there are a lot of good used cars on the market, but you don't know the odometer. Did they toy with it? Did they tweak with it? You don't really know when you go to a used car lot. So San Francisco, hey, you can have a stacked roster. Got to get the quarterback A+, or you're not holding up a trophy. And Chicago, good news, you really upgraded your O&D lines, but that's what you do when you whiff on a bunch of picks. And they did. I mean, you start looking at last year's team for the Bears, who was their pick that was great? Jalen Johnson, the corner, that's their guy. So that's a good story. But, you know, Keenan Allen is somebody else's guy, and DJ Moore is somebody else's guy. And even if you win a trade, on the market, you're overpaying for people. Even the teams, I like what they did in New England. They massively overpaid for a defensive tackle. That's not the way to sustain greatness. The way to do it is the way Detroit's front office, Rams front office, Kansas City's front office, Philadelphia's front office, and you could argue those four teams I just named could be the four favorites next year for the Super Bowl. So there you go. And it's a carousel of quarterbacks bouncing all over the place. And we're kind of waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he